Good evening, Sherry and Donna.
Hey, Fats, how are you?
Good.
I'm trying to
I
get.
don't know. We might get preempted on viewership from the nomadic fallout.
Well, and the good thing is, I'm trying to get. Excuse me for a minute. I'm trying to get Brian up here. Um, the whole thing is, we record this space so that people can also enjoy it in the future. And so, we always hope people will join us just because we enjoy the company as well as any comments or questions. So, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah. No. No big. That doesn't matter. It's always good to have a recorded space to go back to listen to.
Right. And so let me give you a proper introduction. Our guest is not only in the sports gambling world, but has been a part of the poker world for decades. Originally from Pennsylvania, he currently resides in Michigan with his lovely wife. Fats has a Hendon mob of over 260,000 with his best live cash over 61K for his third place finish in the $1,500 seven card Raz tournament in 2006. Our guest is a board member of the Sports Gambling Hall of Fame, and Fats has 11 WSOP caches for over 172,000. Very impressive, and the list could go on and on. Believe me. So welcome.
I was hoping you weren't going to stop. That was sounding really
Well, it
good.
is good stuff, and hopefully you'll just clue us in and tell us more. So welcome to the show, and your nickname is the Real Fats. So welcome.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Sherry.
We're glad you joined us, and I'm going to start out with tell us one of your favorite poker memories.
One of my favorite poker memories. Oh wow, you're coming right out of the gate with the guns blazing here.
Series like rapid fire here.
Favorite poker memories. Well, I don't know if it's necessarily my favorite, but it's a story I enjoy. I enjoy telling, and it's about a guy who he goes around the like down at the World Series, and he's like, oh, stake me in this and stake me in that, and he never really wins, and he owes people money, but I always entertain him. So he comes to me one day down at the World Series, and he says, "Look, the daily, the dailies that they're doing every day, the 225 daily, has been getting so many people. His first prize is over 30,000. It's definitely going to be over 30,000 today." He says it's a really great value. You should put me in. And I said, 30,000? First place going to be over 30,000. All I got to give you is $225. You're going to go in that tournament, and first place is going to be over 30,000 for a $225 buy-in. He says, that's right. I said, wow, that's a pretty good value. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll make you this deal. I'll give you the $225. And you enter the tournament. If you win first place, you can keep the whole 30,000. If you finish anywhere other than first, I get the money.
Wow.
Then all of a sudden, he didn't want to do the tournament anymore. And he said, that's not fair. I said, what do you mean that's not fair? You came over to me and you said, wanted me to put you in because first place was over 30,000. Well, if you weren't going to planning on winning the first place, then why would you want me to put you in? And I'm being extra nice to you. I'm going to let you keep the whole 30,000. That's the reason you came over here, isn't it? So that's how I chased him away.
We played a win. We played a win.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I used to have all kinds of lines. Somebody would say, because I used to have a couple of people I would stake, and then, people would get wind. I had a few people, and then they will want to know if I want to stake them too, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And I used to tell them, if I stake. If I get one more horse to enter in these tournaments, I said I'm going to end up having to buy a glue factory.
Well, you were bound to win though because you had the whole stable.
Uh,
Well,
you want to laugh? I'll tell you, the same guy that I just did that thing with the
right.
30,000. Okay, this guy was a one-shot wonder. He won one tournament at the Mirage, and this guy milked that result as if he was some kind of poker star into getting staked in a bunch of stuff. And originally, when I first met him, I kind of got sucked into this a little bit and thought he was better than he was because I was playing with him in a tournament and I saw his play and he wasn't playing that bad. And so I was staking him on a few things. And so anyway, I was putting him in satellites and I think he lost like between 10 and 15 satellites in a row. He just went on a bad satellite run.
Ouch.
And down at the World Series, they usually have like those little reporters with a microphone and a little camera, and they'll sit there and they'll catch somebody walking by and they'll do an interview, and they'll catch somebody else walking by and they'll do an interview.
Right.
And somehow he got on an interview with one of these people and got them to interview him as a satellite expert.
On how to lose a satellite?
I saw, this is right on the cuff of him losing like 15 satellites in a row. I see this interview that he does about, we're talking to Steve Fredericks, satellite expert. I went bananas.
I thought it was Snoop Dogg.
Oh.
No, not Snoop Dogg. I've never met Snoop.
He's a
I
good
just
guy.
know him from the spaces since I started coming in.
Hopefully
Yeah.
I'll get to meet him face to face in December. So, this year, the Sports Gambling Hall of Fame inducted 10 members, and I'm going to throw out one of their names. And if you have a story about them or something you'd like to tell us about them, please do. If not, just say pass and I'll name somebody else.
Okay.
Bob Martin.
Bob Martin is one of the best lines makers ever back in the day, but he was just a little bit before my time, so I only know of him. Never had a chance to work with him or really see his expertise in action.
Gotcha. Billy Baxter.
Billy Baxter. How can you not love Billy Baxter? Not only is he now in the Sports Gambling Hall of Fame, but he's also in the World Series of Poker Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And I mean, this guy is he's just such a he has like technology still. He hasn't caught up with technology yet, like with cell phones and all that. I mean, I think he's got to have a cell phone, but you would never know that he even knows how to use it. But he's such an old school, nice gentleman. And so this year he was being inducted, obviously, into the world's the Sports Gambling Hall of Fame. And he, down at the World Series of Poker this year, he finished in second place out of like 8,100 and change in the seniors event. Almost got his 8th World Series of Poker bracelet at his age, which I don't even know. And then when it came time to get inducted into the Hall of Fame for the grand opening of the Hall of Fame, the thing that they opened it in the kiosk or down at right in the sports book.
Right.
He was late. He got lost. He says he didn't even know where he was downtown. He didn't know how to find circuit.
Oh my goodness! I think
Billy's quite the character. Lovely, lovely, lovely person. Great to talk to. He's got good stories, and he's seen it all.
Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, actually, I was thinking about somebody else. The first year, and I can't think of his name, But my first year playing the World Series, there was a pot, and I can't think of who it was. Anyway, there was a pot that got all messed up, and he, like, in the middle of the tournament, like, stands up and, like, starts straightening out the pot for everybody. Can't remember who that was. I'll have to think about who that was. But anyway, I was thinking about somebody else, so I apologize for that.
Oh, that's
But
okay.
yeah. So did you want to go through some more?
No, go ahead. I'll go back to it. We'll just keep
Okay.
going back to it. Go ahead, bud.
I just had some questions, like, obviously about poker and whatever. That's fine, but, like, I want to know more about sports gambling and how that works. Like, my friends, they're all geniuses, and they all think they're going to beat the lines maker and that kind of thing. And I've just always had this thought, like, these guys spend their lives, like, doing the math and running the numbers, and certainly with AI and all of the analytics that are available today, like, it's got to be pretty hard to beat. Can you talk a little bit about, just in general, like, the process of professional sports gambling, and what that's like as compared to, like, my buddies who bet football games on the weekend?
It's kind of like poker. You want to always get it in with the best hand, and sports betting, you could relate that to beating the closing line. So if the game closes 7 and you laid 6, that's good. Or if the game closes 7 and you took +8, that's good. So,
Yeah.
And I did an experiment through Twitter last year just to demonstrate. It's called closing line value. And what I did was, using a random number generator, I selected 20 games every Saturday for college football. And then I assigned to those 20 games 1 point better than whatever the closing line was at Circa Sports. And then I figured out how they did, which normally would be 50-50. But every time that extra point made a difference, that could change a game from, a tie to a win versus a loss, or a win and a push, or something like that. So,
Right.
And the whole point was that if you just picking it random, as long as you're beating the closing line by a point, you should make money. And if you did the record without the extra point, you would have gotten juiced out. But with those extra points, enough games landed on the number that extra point made the difference between winning and losing.
Interesting.
So in the nutshell, that's the key, is beating the closing line. Now, how you beat the closing line, it's a matter of having good information early, betting early, knowing people who really know what they're doing, and working with them so that when they're betting, you're betting, and then by the time the game starts, you're sitting in a good position.
So when they set these lines, forgive me if this is a dumb question, but when they set these lines, some of it has to do with their interpretation of the analytics, but then some of it has to do with how many people are buying one side or another, right?
Well, what they do, like, for example, when Circa puts up their opening line on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon after the first game's kick, they'll put up their opening line for the following Sunday, and they'll take 3,000 on a side and 1,000 on a total. And when they take a bet, they'll move the line like 2 points. They'll move it aggressively. Now, if somebody comes back and bets the other side, they'll move it back a point. But if somebody bets the same side again, they'll move it another 2 points until everybody stops betting. And then whatever the line settles in, that's where it pretty much settles in. And then that doesn't mean there's not going to be more action during the week, but it'll settle in. And as the week goes on, then they'll raise their limits to 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, maybe 50,000, and sometimes on some games as much as 100,000. But but they try to get the line to a point where they think they're going to have equal action on both sides before they put the big limit up.
The big money. Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. Sorry, wasn't a poker question, but
I know. I think we're going to have a cross between both subjects, and it's a good thing, Brian. Um, I want you to talk to us. I know you do a whole thing with a coin and the hat. Can you explain to our audience how you came up with that and what that is about?
Okay. The way the coin in the hat came up was I was in a space and we were talking about the Circa Millions contest. And I made the comment that how hard it is to win that contest because you have to pick the 5 games every week, and it's not easy to pick 5 games against the NFL spread every week. Plus, you have to have your picks in on Saturday. You don't necessarily have the benefit of any late information that might come out Saturday night or Sunday morning because your picks are already locked in. And I said, if I took all the games each week and stuck them in a hat and then pulled 5 games out and then flipped the coin to see which side I was going to take, I would probably do just as good in the contest as I would picking them myself, or then pretty much anybody. Now, pardon me for saying this name, but Nomadic AP says, no way, I could beat the hat and the coin. So I said, okay, how much? And we started a wager with, he would give me his picks each week, and then I would draw the hat and the coin picks, and we would post it. And after 4 weeks, the hat and the coin which was far above expectations, but was like 14, 5, and 1. And 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 Nomadic was
wow.
like, he was like 8, 11, and 1 or something like that. So he was like he was like 6 games behind the hat and the coin. And then he quit the contest because he surrendered to the hat and the coin. And so since then, to replace him, I've taken my own 2 actual Circa contests and I pitted them against the hat and the coin for the rest of the season.
And
And the
what?
hat and the coin had
Yeah,
its first bad week last week. It went 2-3. So the hat and the coin is now 16, 8, and 1.
that's incredible. I don't even know how many people could say that they're 16, 8, and 1 because I don't know enough about it, but I'd
That was
imagine
enough, I think, to be tied for 243rd in the contest.
that's amazing. Oh, that's amazing. So fun. Okay, I'm going to throw another name out there for you. Another inductee into the Hall of Fame this year was Frank Lefty Rosenthal.
Well, Frank Lefty Rosenthal is the guy who was played by, in the movie Casino, was played by Robert De Niro. And he was a bookmaker, but he had good information. He knew how to make the odds. And so the wise guys or the mob would kind of, they protected him and they wanted him to run the books and do that. He was very successful because he always had the right information and knew what the right odds should be and did all whatever homework or math he had to do to get that done. And that was his, that was why he was so famous. And if you watch the movie is pretty accurate to how the story ended up going as far as the portrayal of his life.
And it's gonna next time I watch it, and I'm gonna do it soon, just because now I have that in my mind that I need to think about that as a good depiction of real life. So I appreciate that heads up. How about Billy Waters?
Well, Billy Walters is the legend of legends. He's the I mean, there wouldn't even be a sports gambling Hall of Fame if he wasn't in it. It would have no credibility. I mean, he is the um, the greatest sport, given credit for being the greatest sports gambler ever in the business. And what made him so great was he knew how to maximize getting down without people jumping in and stealing your information. In other words, like if the original, there was a computer program, and the guy who wrote the program went to Vegas and started using his computer program to handicap football and did really well. Well, he was doing so well, he got noticed. Like people were like, wow, this guy's doing pretty good. So now this guy would go into a casino and he would bet, and let's say he would bet somebody -5, and the line would move to 6. They would move to 6 after he bet it. Now he'd go down to the next casino and lay 5. Well, by the time he got to the next casino, somebody that saw him bet at the first casino had already run down to the next casino and run down to the next casino. And by the time he went all around town, his game was gone everywhere.
Wow.
So Billy so this guy wasn't good at he was good at making the numbers and betting and knowing what to bet, but he wasn't good at actually getting the bets down. Well, Billy Walters put together a whole network so that he could take out everything at one shot. Everybody had beepers, and there'd be a runner in every casino, and that would be one way. Then Billy sometimes he would bet a game, and he would bet the wrong side, and people would see the guy bet the wrong side, and then they'd go follow him, and then they go run to every casino and bet the wrong side. And then Billy would come back in with everybody all at once and bet the right side. Now he had a whole point better because everybody else moved the line down following the guy. He only made one wrong bet and he makes 10 right bets. And so he moves the line for hardly any juice. So
How
Billy was
brilliant.
the master of faking and all this stuff. He was so good that every Sunday we would talk about the games from Saturday in college football and college basketball. And so one season, this is what I tell people. One season, I said I charted Billy all his plays for Saturdays in college football and all his plays in college basketball. And I said, do you know what his winning percentage was? Does anybody want to care to guess?
57%.
Anybody else?
Oh no, 100%.
100%. Well,
I guess 99.
Sherry has the correct answer, 100%.
Wow.
And you say, how could he win 100% of his games? And the reason I say he won 100% of his games is because the next day, after all the games have been played, every single game where there was a line movement and the line movement held up and won, everybody would say, well, that was a Billy game. And every game where there was a line movement and the game lost, everybody would say that was a Billy setup game. So therefore, he had to pick 100% because all the ones that moved won and all the ones that moved and lost, he was betting those were fakes. So he was really on the other side. So he had to pick 100% every Saturday.
That's great.
I love it. Let me do a couple of house cleaning things, will you, Brian and Fats? First of all, a word about our sponsor, Elevator Results, whose purpose is to provide a service to help people reach their desired fitness goals, whether it be to gain weight, to lose weight, or to improve your sports performance. Elevator Results can help you reach your goals. I also want to give out, I see Brad Nesser here. He has a Twitch stream on Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. He'll be streaming his Player of the Year tournament and a qualifier. That's Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific time.
And
So a
if
little
you
shout
haven't
out.
tuned into that, it's really pretty cool. I know,
Very
we've heard him a lot of times talk about the DJs and stuff like that. He usually has a live DJ. I don't know if this weekend is that, but man, the way he does it is really pretty cool.
It's
Like
very
honestly, it's a really
entertaining.
good show.
Yeah, it's very entertaining. And I love to tune in and mess around with those guys for a little bit on Sundays when I have time. Okay, real facts. Tell us, not too many years ago, there was, a bust in the world of gambling, as sports bettors. And unfortunately, you were part of that bust. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I was on wiretaps talking to the to Spanky, who was the main target of that bust. And they pretty much, anybody that he was talking to, they had a whole network. They arrested about 25 people around the country and scooped them up. And they arrested us all as fugitives of New York, which is ridiculous because I hadn't been to New York in years. But I got arrested as a fugitive of New York because I spoke with Spanky on the phone.
Unbelievable.
And so anyway, well, what that meant was when we were in jail, they took us down to jail. Like their intention was to extradite us to New York, which would be like a whole month process. And so,
And what city were you in at the time?
Las Vegas. I was in
Okay.
Las Vegas.
Okay.
And what ended up happening was the first couple guys, Vegas guys who had big lawyers, made a deal with the court and said, look, we'll post bail here in Vegas and guarantee we'll show up in New York whatever time we have to show up in New York, and then we'll show up and post bail in New York. So the court here went for that and didn't hold us. So, and this was a very interesting situation for me. So they wanted 150,000 bail, and so this was a Thursday. So I got the deal that for 150,000 bail, I can get out, and then I'll have to show up in New York. When I show up and post in New York, then we get the 150 back in Nevada. So I get a hold of my parents. My parents wire the $150,000 to the lawyer. And Friday morning, I find out that it's a holiday in Nevada. It's called Nevada Day. The stupid October holiday called Nevada Day.
Oh.
And banks are closed. So this wire that was sent yesterday by my mother isn't showing up till Monday.
Oh.
So a friend of mine, who's one of the sharpest NFL handicappers I ever worked with, it goes by the name Tiger, who's in Philadelphia, finds out about this that morning. He goes to his bank, gets $150,000 cashier's check, sticks a guy on an airplane, and sends him out to Vegas to post my bail Friday night.
That's a damn good friend.
So I could be out Saturday morning instead of Monday. And I mean, I can't express how grateful I was to him for doing that. And it was really important that I'd be out by Saturday and not stuck in there till Monday, because my kicker in my fantasy football league was on bye that week, and I had to get it out so I could change my lineup.
Oh, fantasy football. Never a dull moment in the fantasy football world.
So anyway, so I get out, and now I have to report to New York. I report to New York. We get a rain, blah, blah, blah. No big deal. We post in New York, and then we come back, and then it's, I meet with my New York lawyer, and now it's just like we have discovery and this and that. And I wanted every single wiretap phone conversation that they had for their entire investigation. They sent me like 3,000, some discs with like 3,000 phone calls on it.
Wow.
And I listened to all of them because I want to hear what they think they were listening to.
Right.
And I mean, everything on the tape shows that I'm just a bettor. I'm not a bookmaker. And by the way, Spanky was just a bettor. He wasn't a bookmaker either. So finally, as this thing's going on, I have to, one of the trips to New York, I said to my lawyer, I said, look, let's sit down with the district attorney, because they were trying to say they wanted me to be a witness for them. And I said, let's sit down and talk to these guys. So we sit down, and I said, look, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to be a witness for you, a confidential informant or anything like that. I said, but if you'd like, I'll tell you everything you want to know about Spanky, and I'll be more than happy to take the stand and tell you the same thing. And because Spanky was just a bettor. He was a big bettor, but he was just a bettor. He wasn't a bookmaker. They didn't understand the difference. And the district attorney says to me, this is the district attorney, not just a assistant DA. This is the district attorney. And he says to me, well, we can't put you on the stand unless we know that you understand what the truth really is. And I'm like, I'm the gambling expert here. I know what the truth is. What are you talking? In other words, I have to fit your narrative where you don't know what you're talking about.
Oh God.
No. So anyway, that kind of broke down. We went back and forth. I held out. I wasn't giving up. And another problem I had with them was in their initial press release, they referred to me as a bookmaker, and I wasn't making any deal with them unless they retracted that statement from their press release. So the bottom line was everybody had settled out of the case except me, Spanky, and one of Spanky's partners, and I think maybe one other guy. And I said to them, well, first of all, I'm not going to plead guilty to something that I didn't do.
Right on.
I can't do it. I won't say I did that if I didn't do it. And I said, and I'm going to want a letter apologizing for retracting you calling me a bookmaker in your press release. So they worked out a deal, and they gave me what's called a 6th degree misdemeanor. And what I had to do was I had to allocute that at some time during the course of their entire investigation, I committed some crime unspecified.
How stupid is that bullshit?
Now, according to my recollection of that time period when they were doing their investigation, I do believe that I did go over the speed limit one time.
Jesus, or you jaywalked, right?
And that's basically what I took a plea to. And I got a letter saying that the charges have been dismissed, that they referred to me as a bookmaker, Nothing in their investigation um, indicated that I was ever a bookmaker, and I should be allowed to continue my professional gambling activities as they see nothing wrong with anything I was doing. Blah blah blah
Now,
blah blah
I
blah.
happen to be privy to you telling this story before, so, but I thought it was not only ingenious but comical. Um, can you tell us about when they raided your house and where you hid some things? Um,
Yes. Thank God we had a dog that barks loud. So when they showed up at our house at like 6 in the morning, there was a big bang on the door. And my wife got up and walked into the next room and looked out the window. And she said, "There's cops all over the place," or whatever. We're getting raided or something like that. So now they come in and they're ready to come in. And we had a bull mastiff that had a really mean bark. He was a lovely sweetheart, but he had a really mean bark, and he's barking. And she says, "Look, let me put the dog away. I don't want the dog, you guys to shoot the dog or anything like that." So they held off to give her time to put the dog away, which gave me time to try to hide some money. And I had a shoebox in the bedroom with me that it had maybe, I don't know, 25, 30,000 in cash, but it had a ton of sports betting tickets from the whole week, because this was like Wednesday and we'd already bet Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So pretty much most of the bankroll was bet in active tickets. So it wasn't that big, but it was, it's still worth a lot of money. And then I had a few $1,000 chips, and then I had some sportsbook futures that were, like 1,000 to win 100,000 on the Redskins to win the Super Bowl. That was the year RG3 was a rookie, and they were doing really well.
the
So
Baylor genius.
those things I left in the shoebox. A couple thousand in chips and those tickets and a little bit of cash, and I took the rest and I said, "All right, where am I going to hide this?" And in a hamper in the corner of the room, I had there was inside the hamper was a red, like, medical waste disposal bag, because I had wounds that the bandages had to constantly be changed on, and then we would throw the medical waste in there. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, I could hide it in there. Nobody's going to look in that. And then I said, "Yeah, but then my wife's going to throw the trash out, so I can't do that." So then I said, I just lifted the bag up and put it on the ground, on the floor under the bag. So it was in the basket, but underneath the bag. So if you didn't lift the bag out, you wouldn't see it. And that's what I did. And they never found it.
I love it.
And the funny thing was, when they got a receipt they gave my wife a receipt for everything they took out of the house. Like, she's like, this doesn't look right. There should be more than that. And so after they left, her and my stepson, they ransacked our bedroom more than it had already been searched, trying to find out where I put the stuff. And they didn't find it either.
I love it. Under the bag, people. Note to selves, people.
But
Under the bag.
that would have been a big disaster for me if that got found, because was doing, I had sports betting deals with about 4 or 5 different people, and I was doing business with Spanky, but the other 4 had nothing to do with Spanky. So if, because of any money I might have been holding that belonged to Spanky that got confiscated, well, that's become Spanky's problem, because the whole incident stemmed from him. But
Right.
these other people whose money I'm responsible for, they have nothing to do with Spanky. So whereas most people would say, well, the government came in, that's not my problem. I was like, no, that's not your problem. That's my problem, because I was doing something with Spanky and had your money in harm's way. So I felt I was still responsible to make good to all these people. So of the money, because they still took money out of sports betting accounts and stuff like that I had. So they still took a chunk of money. And but if they would have taken this, it would have bankrupted me to a point where I never would have been able to work out to make sure everybody got paid back in full.
Right.
Which so after I got out and got what I had left, I was able to take care of everybody, like between 85 to 90% of what was owed to them, between 80 and let's say between 80 and 85%. And then over a little bit of time, I paid off the rest as I went forward.
Good for you. Good for you. I just enjoyed that story about where the money was hid. I just
I mean,
find
I
it.
thought that's like search and seizure 101. You look under the bag in the trash can. So
Well, and I think your decoy of what you left in plain view just threw them off the scent, right?
well, that helped. Plus, my stepson down the hall was holding 60,000, and he had it in sitting in his sock drawer, and they found that, and they figured, well, then once they found that, I think they said, all right, well, that's got to be everything then, and so
Right.
I think they got lazy.
Right. Tell us about. I mentioned earlier that you're on the Sports Gambling Hall of Fame board. Tell us about the Bet Bash that you guys produce.
Well, Bet Bash is what happened was after COVID, Spanky had this idea, and he said, because he was becoming big on Twitter, and he was starting to trend a little bit on Twitter, and he was known, he was known as the successful sports bettor that he is. And so he said, let's have a big party. Whoever wants to come. And he rented some bar in Jersey somewhere, and he called it Bet Bash. And it was just a one night deal. And he had hors d'oeuvres and stuff like that, maybe an open bar, and charged maybe like $70 a head or something. And no, I didn't go to that because it was too far. I really wanted to go, but I didn't go.
Right.
Because the travel was too much for me. And he got like 200 people come out to it, and the people came out and they met, and basically it was like a networking thing where, like, maybe you're doing you have a certain niche that you bet. Maybe you're good at betting golf, and you meet another guy who does golf, or
Right.
maybe you do tennis and this guy does golf, and now you can kind of swap and share your information. Now you can be betting both things. So it became it was a real popular event. People got to meet each other and exchange ideas and learn from, and everybody was like real friendly. The sharp of the sharps were there, and then the casual people that wanted to learn, or just your average casual bettors were there and trying to learn or gain knowledge they could get from the sharp bettors. And he said, you know what? We got to do this again. I was trying to say, why don't you do it like for a couple days, like a weekend in Chicago or something? Because I knew I could get to Chicago. And then he got the idea to do it in Vegas down at the Circa. And I was like, all right, you do it in Vegas. I'll make the trip. I'll find a way to make the trip back to Vegas. And so he did it in Vegas. He ran Bet Bash 2. And then Bet Bash 2, he had, he had seminars one night, and he had, with various panels discussing various sports betting topics, and and stuff like that. And then he had watch parties. It was during the NCAA tournament, so there was some watch parties and a swim watch party, and there were other social events. And then there was a thing called speed networking, which is kind of like speed dating, and you fill out a form that says what like type of interest you have in the sports, like whether it's betting sports, whether it's media, whether it's that, and then they run this algorithm, and it's like speed dating, and every like 5 minutes you switch seats, and then you meet somebody else, and you try to make connections so that you can network and maybe meet people that you could do business with down the road and share information or whatever.
Great
And
concept.
so they did that, and then this year was Bet Bash 3, and then what he added to Bet Bash this year was he created the Sports Gambling Hall of Fame, and he put together 16 board members, and he asked me to be one of the board members, which I was honored to do. And I also worked with him, helping him try and get some of the bylaws set up, or some of the rules that, he was bouncing ideas off of me and stuff like that. But he set it up, and he got 16 of us, and he had rules in place for how we nominate everybody and stuff like that. And then we had the banquet. We had a big, that we had inducted our first class, and we had a banquet where everybody was inducted, and there was a ceremony, and each person was called up to receive their award or whatever. And this room was, for like somebody like me or anybody,
Right.
was an honor to be in this room. The legends of sports gambling that were in this room all at one time was mind blowing. If you're in this business, and to have seen all these people together in the same room was just you can't even explain it. So he hit that out of the park, and then we had our final event, and now Bet Bash 4 is August 6th to 9th, I think, next year.
Awesome.
The dates just came out.
Awesome.
So, how many people did they induct this year, and are they going to be doing the same amount in subsequent years, or less, or
They
how's that?
inducted 10, 5 living and 5 dead, the first class, and I believe our goal is to do the same with the second. Whoops, I just dropped the phone.
Okay. No worries.
I hope I said that you guys didn't get hurt there.
Nope. Might have a black eye in the morning, but it'll be okay.
Trying to put my.
You're too funny, Sherry.
So my understanding is that we're going to try to do the same thing, another 5 and 5. And then I think, after a couple of years, after maybe 3 or 4 years, when we have a decent sized group in there, then maybe they might change the number that we induct each year.
Which is understandable, since it's a new endeavor, and you want to. I call that playing catch up, right? You've got to catch up a little bit.
Yeah, certainly. And I think they did a really good job. We did a really good job coming up with the initial group, and it'll be interesting to see who we bring in next year. So I think we start discussing that around the new year. I think we start getting notices, and then we start nominating, and then that's a whole, and then we have like a chat room that all the board members can go into to discuss. And We actually, uh, the inductees, the ones that get inducted, become can become members of the become new members of the board. Now, Roxy Roxborough and Billy Baxter, who were inducted this year, were already on the board. So the other three, Billy Walters, Scotty Shetler, and Jimmy Vaccaro, were added to the board. So now instead of 16 on the board, we have 19 to vote.
Okay.
And we have a very high threshold of, I think we need 75% to get somebody in, which is
Voting. Okay.
so
I, I,
out of 16 votes, you had to get at least 12 out of 16 to get in if you got on the ballot.
I have a controversial pick for you for next year. Pete
Okay.
Rose. Pete Rose. What do you think?
Well, he's not.
I mean, if we can't get him in the baseball Hall of Fame, at least we could get him in the sports betting Hall of Fame.
It's funny. I actually met Pete Rose once out here, and there was a sports book called the Sport of Kings, and it was a big horse racing book, but it also had a big sports book. But they were there for trying to write big money on horse racing, and they had like a turf club that. So if you had membership, which you only had to make like a certain amount of bets in a certain period of time on horses, and then you'd become a member of the turf club. And even if you weren't a regular horse player, you could get somebody to make those bets for you so you could get in. And then you could go over there every day for lunch. And they served up a gourmet lunch in this place every single day. It was like crazy.
That's
it was like
very cool.
So I was in there anyway. I was in there one day, and lo and behold, there's Pete Rose sitting there playing horses with somebody. And I walked up to him and I said hello, shook his hand, and told him I thought he deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. And
Absolutely.
and that was it. But you know who else I ran into in a sports book one time? I ran into Mel Brooks and what's the woman that he's always with? I can't think. I can't think of her name now.
It's an unusual name. It's Madam for what the hell is it? It'll come to me. We'll get back to that one.
Well, we'll get back to that. Somebody will Google it and
somebody
send
Google
it
it for us. You know, I want to give Donna a chance. If Donna, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, how did you get from poker to sports betting?
I was actually sports betting first, and then I always liked when I came to Vegas. I came to Vegas to sports bet, and I was betting sports for through the 90s and into the 2000s, and I always used to play poker. Like I would go out at night and just play in the casino in a small game, nothing big, just to kill some time, have some fun. And then around the moneymaker time, I said, you know what? Let me go down and try to play a satellite into the World Series of Poker. And so it would be, you would play a $100 satellite. And then if you won, you would play a second satellite. And if you won that, you had a seat in the main event. And so that's my first one I'm playing. And I get down to heads up. And I never played no limit heads up before. So when you get the heads up, the small blind and the big blind switch positions kind of. And so I wasn't familiar with that. And so the dealer was a little bit confused. And the guy I'm playing against said, no, this is how it goes. And I said, well, I want a ruling. And the guy says, trust me, I know what I'm talking about. And I says, who? I said, I still want a ruling. I said, I don't know who the hell you think you are, but I'm entitled to a ruling. And so anyway, so the guy comes over and gives a ruling, and he says, like, I told you so. I said, well, so what? So you were right, but big deal. I don't know you. I don't know who the hell you are. And he turns around and he points up on the wall. It was Tom McAvoy. And he points to his picture up on the wall.
No biggie. Bracelet winner. No biggie.
Yeah. So anyway, that was my first meeting with Tom McAvoy, who is a very good buddy of mine. And but that was the first time I ever met him. And
That's an
so
awesome story. If anybody, first of all, I'm glad to see everybody here listening to Fats give us some background and some fun stories. So if anybody in the audience wants to come up and speak, just hit that request button in the bottom left, and we'll be happy to entertain your comments or questions. Go ahead, Brian.
Your story reminded me of this one of my first big satellites too. Actually, it was funny. Um, I was something happened, and I started talking crap to this guy, and then like the other guy next to me says, "Do you have any idea who that is?" I'm like, "Nope," and he's like, "That's the 1999 world champion, no, I think it was Noel Furlong or whatever." I'm like, okay, cool, like great, I'm gonna talk crap to him just like anybody else. Let's go, let's play some poker.
I
Pretty funny.
had in one of my caches that on my list there was it was a $5,000 7-card stud. I finished in 6th place. And in the second round of that tournament, sitting, and I'm in the hand, and I got a pair of I think I have split 5s with a 6 in the hole. And so I look to see 4th Street, and I get another 6. So now I have 2 pair. And there's these 2 other guys in the pot. And like there's a bet and a raise, and I got 2 pair on the first 4 cards. And I'm like, well, I gotta see another card. So I call, and then like they raise and raise again. And I'm like, really? I said, all right, well, I gotta see one more. So anyway, so now I get another 6. So now I got split 5s with 2 6s up and a 6 in the hole. So I got 6s full of 5s on 5 cards. So I check my 6s, bet, raise. I just call. Re-raise. I just call. I don't get it. I'm not going anywhere now. So they deal the next card, and I'm not seeing anything great over there. But I know there's something, but it's nothing that's looking like it's going to beat a 6 full at this point. So I check again, bet, raise, call, re-raise, all in, call, raise again, call. All right. So now we get to 6th Street. I check, he bets. Now they're both all in. And so all 3 of us are all in. And one of the players was Scotty Wynn. I recognized him. I knew one of the players was Scotty Wynn.
Nice.
And so anyway, one of them had 2 aces in the hole, and the other one was rolled up. And anyway, my 6 is full of 5, holds up, and I win the pot, and I take them both out. But the other guy I took out, he looked familiar, but I didn't know who he was. and Jeff Lysandra was at the table,
Love
and
him.
Jeff Lysandra says, "Wow, you just took out 2 World Series of Poker champions." And I said, "Well, I know who Scotty Wynn was." I said, who was the other guy?" And Jeff Lysandra says, "Forget who the other guy was. Who the hell are you?"
Oh, I love it so
That's
much. I
great.
had the pleasure of interviewing Jeff before, and he's just a fun interview. You guys work it to your hands in just 1 second. I want to say that Dan in our audience posted that Anne
Anne
Bancroft,
Bancroft.
right,
There you
was
go.
the young lady we were trying to refer
Yes,
to.
that's who he was with.
Okay, we're going to go
And
with Jason first because he requested first. Then we'll move on to Wolfie and then Avi. Go ahead, Jason.
wait, well, I got one
Yes.
question for the audience first. Does anybody want to guess who the other World Series of Poker champion I took out in that hand was?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, that's right. We only said one of them. So you said it was
A World Series of Poker champion. It was Scotty Wynn and somebody else.
Phil Hellmuth.
Phil Hellmuth. I was going to say that too.
No, I would have known Phil Hellmuth.
Yeah.
Jingle. What's that?
Harrington.
Ooh,
Harrington.
yeah.
I didn't hear you.
Harrington.
No.
Huckleberry
Mattisau.
Steed.
Mattisau?
He said
Nope.
champion.
Oh yeah, good call. Sorry.
All right, tell us.
Huck Seed.
Oh, I love him too.
Dude, I just said that.
Oh, we missed it. Sorry. Okay, Jason, go ahead, bud. Then
Hey,
we'll get to Wolfie, then Avi.
Hey Fats, how's it going, man? First off, I just want to say I'm a poker player, so I try to stick with my read, and my read is that you're genuinely a good person. I've definitely been off on my read lately, so I don't know, but I'm still gonna go with it because I always have. So I'm gonna keep on going with my read no matter what. You seem like a good guy.
I
Second off,
appreciate that.
of course. Secondly, I'd like to say, my question is, I'm sure it's actually already been asked to you, but what's your biggest sports bet you ever won?
My biggest sports bet I ever won, straight out bet, was the Baltimore New York Giants Super Bowl. The Ravens were like a 3-point favorite over the Giants, and they beat them like 34-7 or something like that. And that was the game that I had my biggest single bet on one game.
Thank you for that question.
Did you want me to
I was
divulge an amount?
searching for the number. I really was, but if you don't want to divulge it,
it was about 200,000.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you. That's awesome. Congrats.
Thank you for that question. Go ahead, Wolfie.
So, what age or like about what timeline did you decide for like your career path was going to be this one that you chose?
Well, I had always enjoyed it, and I had always put myself in a position where I lived in the Philadelphia area where I could grind out a few bucks with doing it. I had a few friends maybe that liked to bet, and they would just call me up and give me their bets, and I'd just write them down for the most part, and I kept trying. I was always making money with that, and I had a few guys that I could bet, and they had off lines, and so I could bet maybe both ways and stuff like that. So I had a few things that I did that way. And then when in I guess it was 88, I was doing after I graduated from Villanova, I went that summer and I did a baseball trip. I drove around the country and saw a baseball game in every major league ballpark. and it was like 15,000 miles of driving in 35 days. And I hit every ballpark. And when scheduling the trip, I took a big calendar,
Guys,
like one of those big desks. I took one of those big desk calendars, and I wrote like who the home teams were each day, and then I tried to figure out what the closest like next city was going day to day. And what I found out was when you got to the East Coast, you never had all six East Coast teams there at the same time. So what I did was I noticed three of them were home right before the All-Star break. Three of them were home right after the All-Star break. So I basically started from the All-Star break and worked my way backwards on two lines till I got back to the beginning. And that was how I planned out the trip. But now I had the 3 days off for the All-Star break when I was in California. So I said, well, I'll go to Vegas for a day or a day or two and then come back, and we were going to see the Angels. So we went to Disneyland for a day. And anyway, when I was in Vegas, I knew somebody who was a manager of a sports book there, and he hooked me up with a hotel. And I was talking to him, and he was explaining to me, how the lines come up and stuff like that. And I had this idea that, well, if I came out during college basketball season, I could bet like the lines in Vegas against the lines of my bookmakers back east, and go both ways and try to middle games. And that was my master plan. So I flew out in December, found an apartment, then went back and then drove out in January. And right before I came out, this guy that I knew who was a bookmaker said, look, I know a guy who's out there who likes to bet, and he's got guys that bet for him. And I didn't really understand what all that meant. And when I went out there, I met them, and then I decided I made it the greatest decision I ever made in my life. And that was, instead of doing what I was going to do, I decided to work for these guys and bet and kind of learn the ropes of Vegas. And if I had done what I originally set out to do, it would have been a disaster. It was a disaster waiting to happen. And I probably would have ended up back home, and it wouldn't have worked out. And then I don't know which direction I would have gone. But instead, I worked for this guy for about 3 months till the end of college basketball season. And then the guy who was running the crew of runners didn't want to do it anymore. And I moved into his job. And now all of a sudden I was in charge of a crew of runners. And then I took that crew of runners and built it into like one of the top running groups and competitive sports betting groups in the city. And, there was like maybe 5, 6, 7 groups, and like all the groups, they knew each other and stuff like that. But I was like running one of the top kind of groups. And,
Nice.
and then you would have, and then the problem was that with that was you always had people coming up to you, they want to work for you. And I'm not interested in hiring anybody that I don't know to give them money to run around town with.
Right. Wolfie, great question. I'm not sure what happened, if you just went down to listener on your own or not, but you're definitely more than welcome to come back up. I was trying to mute you at one time, so I may have hit you remove instead of just to mute. So if I did, I'm sorry. You're more than welcome to come back up, bud. Jason, I'll get right back to you. Avi's next.
Hey, thanks for having me, Sherry. Hey, Brian.
Sure, bud.
Hey, Fats. I wanted to circle back to what was his name? Lefty Roths. Wait, Ace.
Lefty Rosenthal.
Okay, Lefty Rosenthal, aka Ace Rothstein from Casino.
Right.
You were talking about him. Did you have any personal experience with him, or
No, he was before my time.
Okay.
He was before I ever got out to Vegas.
And I guess a second question is, because a lot of bookies are like mob related, especially on the East Coast. Were you ever approached as like, hey, give me a pick or something like that from a mobster, or any kind of interactions along your career?
No, not at all. Never.
Okay, that's all I got.
Great question, Avi. Thank you. Go ahead, Jason.
Hey, I don't want this to come off the wrong way, for sure, because I'm just genuinely curious. Have you ever felt like running a book or anything like that was morally or ethically like wrong? Has there ever been a part of you that felt like you were at any point in your life felt like you were like doing something wrong?
As from betting, you mean, or
No,
from
maybe
like
like taking
taking
bets,
bets
maybe.
from my friends and
Yes.
just booking them myself?
Yes, I've helped people I've helped like get people into sports betting before. So I'm just curious if I don't know, and I don't know, there's certain people that I felt bad about getting them into it. So I wonder like what the line is basically for it.
Well,
Good
I
question.
wouldn't. I mean, since if it was somebody, you know, that I know they're gonna bet they're gonna lose their money anyway. I mean, when I say for friends, I mean it's not necessarily friends that I would, I'm gonna go out to dinner with every night or something like that. It's more or less acquaintances, but people that I knew. And if it was somebody that I knew well, I would say, hey, you know what, you don't want to be doing this. You're not going to make any money or something. You know what I mean? So, and in that regard, but if it was somebody that there was no real attachment to, but it was just somebody I knew, but I knew they were going to pay if they lost, and I was going to pay if I won, and it was just a little extra game, and it wasn't big money anyway. It was 50, $100, stuff like that. At that stage of the game, it wasn't any big money.
Great question. Again, if anybody would like to come up and ask a question or make a comment, please just hit that request in your bottom left corner of your screen. I think we would be kind of remiss if we did not bring up the white elephant in the room that all of us have been putting up with for the last few days. Um, is there any update on the nomadic situation that you'd like to share with us, or any comments you would like to make that you may feel have been missed in the shuffle of all the different conversations?
Yes, I've been the last day or two. I've been staying out of speaking and just kind of listening. I did go on till I was on till 4:30 in the morning and a lot of the day yesterday. But since then, I've been just kind of listening and seeing what's going on. And I've taken a lot of heat because I I haven't vouched for Nomadic, and I haven't you know I haven't tried to justify what he did or say he deserves forgiveness. But what I did do was I called it the way I saw. I'm calling it the way I see it, and I've changed my view just a little bit in the last day from listening to everything and other information I found. But everybody's referring to him as a scumbag, scamster, and he was always on a scam. And he came to Vegas for the purpose of infiltrating the spaces and taking advantage of people and their money in these spaces under the guise of being one of the good guys who's against that. Now, what he did, uh, especially in one particular thing that he did, is deplorable, despicable, and no excuse for it, and probably one of the dumbest thing I've ever seen somebody do. But that being said, the guy actually does, from my experience with him, I believe he's not really a bad guy. He has a good heart. He's a nice guy, and he got himself into a little bit of a jackpot. He'd never been in that situation before, so he was quite embarrassed by the situation, and he instead of reaching out to somebody who might have been able to help him, he decided to try and solve it himself, and he got himself in deeper. And then because, again, he's embarrassed by what he did, he kept trying to compound the lies, which eventually were going to fall apart like a house of cards. And then that's when it really blew up. Of all the things that he did, I mean, people are saying it was premeditated and stuff like that. He did not buy a ticket to Bet Bash and pay for a ticket to Bet Bash to come out to meet people and stay in Vegas for 2 months so that he could make a deal with two guys to enter a circuit contest who were each putting up $333 each. So he could scam them out of $1,200. That was not what he set out to do. That was not a plan. That was not a scam. That was just stupidity that he didn't have the money at the time he was supposed to buy the entries. And then instead of saying something, he compounded it by saying he turned them in, which was the dumbest thing in the world to do, because there was no way he wasn't going to eventually come out and get caught. Take that aside. When he did do that, he offered to make up for it, the two people that paid $333 for each of the entry, the survivor and the other one, he paid them back, since they'd won the first 3 weeks. He gave them back equity of 3 times their buy-in. So they put up $333. They got $999 back plus their $333 back, which that return. So they were either going to end up with that, or they would have had to go the whole season, and if they won the contest, have a shot at a piece of the $9 million. So what the likelihood is that they wouldn't, not that they couldn't, but in my opinion, if I went 3 weeks, lasted 3 weeks in the circuit contest, and somebody said, would you like to drop for 3 times your buy-in? I would take that in a heartbeat. That's a great deal. Just mathematically, that was a great deal. So, and this was done before all this came out. This deal was made on his own. So it shows me that the guy was trying to do the right thing to make up for it. And as far as the circuit contest, the one with the 5 picks, I mean, that was stupid. And he was more worried about fighting the hat and the coin and all that stuff. But it was just stupid, because eventually they were going to figure out he never put the picks in, because he was never telling them what the contest name was. And they were like 8-11 and 1 after 4 weeks. And he gave everybody double their money back for that contest. So after 4 weeks, I would take double my money back with that record anyway and be out of the contest. Now, what did the two guys lose? They lost the thrill and the sweat of entering the contest. But they have the hurt and the lack of trust in him because he didn't do the right thing. But equity wise, he did make up for it in a fair way. That nobody put a gun to his head and do that. He did that on his own. So that showed, a scumbag would have just deleted his Twitter account and disappeared from town. Okay.
Right.
The money for Donna's ticket, he didn't say, I'm going to go to Vegas. I'm going to offer to buy a plane ticket for somebody, and then I'm going to collect money, a couple $100, and use it for my own use, and then screw somebody out of the ticket or something like that. And he has come through with that. Yes, he did he did use that money and was stolen because he had himself in a little bit of a jackpot. But he didn't set out premeditated, let me go scam some people out of donating money for a ticket.
And I'm gonna let you off the hook, because honestly, I just say that, people calling him a con artist, I think is fair, because I think that has more to do with him continually lying about things like being on the football team at Penn State. And so that is more of a con, right? And
Okay.
that was something he didn't need to say. Like it had nothing to do with anything. And I get it. Believe me, I see this as a person that got chewed up by Vegas and is getting spit out. And anyone that's listened to me in the spaces in the last couple of days has heard me say that this gentleman is spiraling out of control and needs help, first of all, for the person. The rest of this stuff will get sorted, but he needs help as a person. And we all have somebody in our lives because we're in the betting world, we're in the poker world that has gone on a gambling spiral out of control, lost my money, your money, the neighbor's money, and try to recover it by chasing it badly, right? We all know somebody like that. And compassion should be the first thing, and then we can, once he is solid as far as the person, mental health, all those things, then, he needs to come completely clean. He needs to be honest and tell every detail, including what he was feeling at that time. I felt in despair, or I felt desperate, or I felt embarrassed, whatever. But tell every detail of every story, of every lack of bet, of every, lie, correct it, tell the truth. The people deserve the truth. Um, Apologies need to be given from a humble place. And guess what? Restitution. Yes, 100% restitution. Will he be welcomed back? I think he would be eventually, not in a leadership role. And I told
Well,
him this myself. I would never, ever trust him in a leadership role. And that's okay. It's okay. But, he's done a lot of wrong things that he has to answer for. And I'm willing to say he needs to take care of himself as a person first, come clean with the lying, and then make restitution. It all goes hand in hand. So, Brian, if you have some comments, then after that, we'll move on.
yeah, I mean, I think in general, like we've this is a story as old as time, right? With the poker community and just in general, like I think that everybody's always willing to hang people for stuff, and it is what it is. One of the big things is you talked about the equity and all that, and that to me is you know him coming. I've been out of this, so forgive me if I'm missing a piece here, but it sounds like whatever happened, he confronted it and is trying to make it right and giving equity and stuff like that. Uh, does anybody know, are the people that he did this with, are they happy with the
Okay.
resolution
I'm going to
or
tell you
no?
right now, Brian, we're not going to get into those weeds, but after this show, if you want to talk to me about it, I'll give you the gory details.
Okay,
Only
yeah,
because for the last 24 hours, this has been rehashed in spaces
okay, yeah.
and beat like a dead horse.
Probably more
And I'll
than
be
that.
happy to give you all of the details. And
That's
honestly, I
fine.
just think the weeds, we are better left not going into the weeds
And,
right now.
and ultimately, my thing is I mean, people do things all the time. I typically, I think it's a good lesson for people who are new to the poker community, to see. Like we were joking earlier about the guy going around asking for a buy-in. I have literally never given anybody like that money.
Right.
And you know in general, like I don't loan money in the poker community. I am very careful about who I quote unquote would do business with, maybe like in terms of staking. And if I was going to stake somebody, I'd probably most of the time do it through one of the like Josh's site or whatever. Um, and just know, like, it's kind of funny, like in the community, how and this isn't necessarily one of these cases, but there'll be people that for years it's talked about how they owe,
Yes.
and yet people are still giving those people money. So, like my sense, like on Nomadic, like I think he got in over his head, and that doesn't mean I'm ever going to be loaning the guy money or anything, but you know, I I I I don't think he's some evil guy that had this crazy plan.
Right.
Definitely sounds like he's got some kind of a gambling problem, and that's unfortunate. And and it goes to just everything. Like I keep saying, everybody, you know, there's very few people in these communities that are making a lot of money at doing this, or even earning a living. It's very, very, very tough, and you've got to be very, very, very disciplined. And if you're allowing yourself to bullshit yourself at all, like, just realize, like, it is very unlikely that you're going to make a career at any of this stuff unless you're some type of very different person. And everybody thinks they're that person, and there's very few of those people that actually
Amen.
exist. So,
Amen.
you
You know
know,
what? Avi had his hand up, Brian.
yeah, go ahead, Avi.
If you guys want to move past the subject, but I kind of just wanted to ask Fats one thing about what he was saying about
Go ahead,
Nomadic.
honey. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Fats, and like I'm still trying to make my mind up about this. It really kind of hurt me in a personal way, just because like I considered him a friend and feel betrayed in that sense. Um, and so my question is, when you're saying like he did this to make good on it, he did this to make good on it, kind of listening to what people are saying in spaces, like the counter argument to that is yeah, but he just took someone else's money to pay the last guy he took money from. So
Well, that's not actually accurate, because the eight, and I'm in the middle of conducting a partial investigation, but on the $8,000 that he got that was sent from the sharp guy, he never really, that money never got into his physical possession. Okay, so he couldn't have done anything with that money to pay everybody else. He had a couple $1,000s in a MGM sports betting account, which he used to make the payments that are being referred to that he made, and that's where that money came from, to my understanding from what was said last night. But right now, just let me just bottom line this situation, because I've been working on it and I've been trying to get him to do the right thing and get this thing straightened out and get it resolved. And as of the moment, the process is in place for everybody to be square, with the exception of the sharp guy and the fantasy football money for my team. Now, I've agreed that I won't accept the money he owes me for my league until everybody else has been paid, and an acceptable agreement has been reached between him and the sharp guy for how that money's going to be paid back. So, and I will be on top of him like a monkey on a cupcake to see to it that he follows through with that. And then I'll get my money eventually at the end, and I'll still cover the money for my league, and everybody else should be taken care of relatively quickly. And
Thank you for that update.
I was going to have a space after the money was officially paid. I was going to have a space. I was going to try and have it co-hosted with Spanky and Kenna, and have him come in, make a statement, and then let people come up and ask whatever they wanted to ask. And he had to appear. That was part of the deal, the promise to him. But he went on a space on his own last night in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
and
you
was
can
on
thank
there
me.
for.
Hey, you can thank me for that, because I talked him into to going, but he
and he
wasn't supposed to do it in the wee hours. He was supposed to wait to schedule something, but
and he did it on an unrecorded space, so
I
it's
know.
going to be a whole mess of he said, she said.
I know.
And
I
on
know.
the Penn State football thing, I never heard him say that. I find it.
Well, okay,
I,
I'm
I
just going to say something to you right now. I'm going to stop you before you dig in yourself deeper. He admitted in the space that he lied about that. Yes, yesterday or last night or this morning, whenever the fuck he was on. He admitted that it was a lie. So not only did
well,
he admit that he said it, but he admitted that it was all a lie. So
all right. Well,
I'm just gonna.
what I was going to say about that was, if I would have heard that when he said it,
Sherry's
I would have
fired up.
been picking on him. I would have never let him live that down. I would have never let that get by. I would have
I know.
attacked that right away. So anybody that believed that one, that's on them as far as I'm concerned with the football thing, because
Well,
that's the most unbelievable thing I ever heard.
no, that's
Uh,
the person that was telling the lie. Brian Koss, what you got, buddy?
Hi,
Brian.
sorry about that. I'm gonna start calling Fats Johnny Cochran. He's gonna be fucking
thank
funny.
goodness. Snoop Dogg already did that the other day in a speech.
Oh damn, me and Snoop think alike. All right, Fats. I'm not trying to and everyone in this space. I'm not trying to keep talking about the same shit with this Richie thing, but I
Yeah,
just gotta
we're only
ask you
doing
one.
this a couple more minutes, folks. Go ahead.
I know. Yeah, sorry, Sherry. I just gotta ask Fats one. It's just a specific question I have to ask Fats.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
Fats. Here's my question, right? And just know, I like Richie. We were super cool, all that, whatever. So I've never had anything against him. But has he ever shown you any screenshots of the payments to with the S. Williams shit? Has he ever shown you a screenshot of a credit card with his name on it, an ID with his name on it? Has he ever proved any of the shit he says to you personally?
All I've seen was a screenshot of his frozen PayPal that has about $4,980 in it.
With his name on it?
It's
No.
just a
It could have been any.
screenshot of a frozen account. I didn't
Well,
see the
Fats, come
name.
on now. Come on. Come on. Could be anyone's PayPal.
That sounds like a Rob Mercer doctor's note to me.
However, I have requested from him to get me a full screenshot that shows the more details than what he sent me on
Yeah,
that.
but you never got it, Fats, and no one has. And that's
I didn't ask him that till earlier today, so I haven't really had time to follow up on that.
but that's why he's a
But
diet Rob Mercer.
I don't.
I have some other things that I'm demanding from him as well.
But you've
And
been saying you've been demanding stuff, Fats.
if he doesn't come through with what I ask him to get me, I'll be the first guy to throw him under the bus next.
Well, you're still acting like his lawyer. All I'm saying is, Fats, I'm not even hating on you. I'm just saying you're defending someone, and everything points in the direction of negative. This does not look good. This is 99.7% all bad.
Well, and I think you heard that.
Let me just, I want to be clear what I'm defending.
Yeah, wait,
What
and
I'm
I just want to
defending
say
is,
that he has changed some of his points of view in the last 24 hours too. So let's
that's
give
good.
that.
but what I'm defending is that this was a premeditated, planned, grifting attack on the community. That's what I'm defending. The people are saying that, okay? This is something that happened. He got himself in a jackpot and then he didn't know how to get out of it. He did every wrong thing he could possibly do and snowballed it into what it is today. And that's not somebody that sets out to do it. And at this point, I mean, I've dealt with a million cases of people doing this kind of thing. If he makes restitution, that's the first step. And it takes responsibility for his actions will be the second step. And that's the path I'm trying to get him on. And because I don't think this was ever done intentionally as a targeted attack on the people that got caught up in it.
I think it's 50-50 at this point.
My
All right.
question,
I'm
hang
going
on,
to
I'm
let
sorry.
Jason go ahead.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, honestly, Fats. I want to know why you are backing him, or not necessarily backing him, but why you are the way you are with him. What makes you this way with him? Like, is it because of your name? Is it because you feel like your name has been kind of
I
drawn
don't
through the
feel
mud
like my name's
because of
been
him?
tarnished.
I don't
I
either,
don't
but
feel like my
I'm
name's
wondering
been.
why.
I don't feel like my name's been tarnished at all by this because I haven't done anything wrong. I've
I
made
agree.
it my point on Spaces and everywhere I go to call him like I see him, and all I'm saying is my impression that I got out of Richie, although there's definitely some things that I wasn't aware of, but I think in general, he's not, that's not the type of person that he is. And I have some other information about him
Okay.
and his history that I've recovered that kind of lends towards the scenario
And same
what
thing
I'm
with
saying, which I
Spanky.
don't want to get into.
Why would Spanky have anything to do with it? Why would you bring him into a space with Spanky? What does he have to do with anything?
Okay.
I didn't bring him into this. I didn't
No,
bring
I'm saying
Spanky into
why
this
would you want to run a space with him with no bringing up Nomad? I'm just curious about that.
because Spanky came into the space the other night when HBK was outing
Hosting.
him,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I remember that.
Spanky stood with me in my opinion that this is just a guy that fucked up and he'll probably make good. Spanky was saying if you guys anybody who doesn't think that they're going to get paid, Spanky says he'll buy the debt up on give him an offer 50 cents on the dollar, 60 cents on the dollar.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm going to
I know,
give
I know that. That's
Jason.
that didn't look so good, by the way. Is all I'm saying. But I don't know.
Okay, I get you, Jason.
Well, it's
I'm
on.
going to give
It's
FTW the last question to Fats on this subject. Then we're switching subjects because, as I said it when I brought this up, it's already been rehashed 55 million hours in spaces. And
For the record, Sherry, you should have known better than to bring it up.
I know. I'm
no,
sorry.
well,
I'm
but
sorry.
no, it's okay. It's okay. So go ahead. Where did FTW
I'm
go?
here.
Go
I'm
ahead,
here.
FTW.
And I think this is a great point to end it on. Can we start saying pickle instead of a jackpot? I don't think you're doing very good for his case, Fats.
Okay.
Jackpot's coming across real weird, buddy.
yeah.
I guess that's older school terminology. I
Pickle,
guess
pickle. All right, that's all I got.
got
Hey,
himself in a
hey,
pickle. Got it.
we know it wasn't a hot slot, right? So I still have two names for you, Fats, to give us a little story or comment about Scotty. Is it Shetler?
Scotty Shetler.
Yes, sir.
Scotty Shetler is he used to be he used to run the Stardust Sportsbook when I first came to town, and he was one of the first guys that said, "Hey, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a runner betting for a sharp guy or if you're just some square off the street. Everybody gets the same limits. You want to make a bet, you make a bet. I'm going to move the line. You want to bet it the other way, bet it the same way. Keep betting. You get one bet. Everybody gets the same limit. You bet, and which is the model that the Circa Sports uses this day, which is the only fair way for a bookmaking operation to really run a fair book. And so that was Scotty's big claim to fame. He opened a sports gambling library in the sports book where he would put out all kinds of stats and stuff. So the players that would come and sit in the sports book could go in there and do their handicap and then come to the windows and bet. He had a lottery system where everybody, when he would put the line, they would put the first lineup every day, and people would come out and they would have to draw numbers to see who got to bet first when the lines went up in the morning. And the other thing he's phenomenal at is he tells a story. He's a mild mannered guy, but you stick a microphone in front of him, man, he could bust up a comedy club like nobody's business, telling stories from back in the day and all kinds of things. And if you ever want to listen, when Spanky Be Better Betters interview that he did of me, I was on for 3 hours.
Great interview, I might add.
Every other interview he's done has been basically an hour, with one exception, and that was Scotty Shetler's, which was 2 hours. And Scotty Shetler's is extremely entertaining, lots of great, funny stories, worth a listen to.
Great interview, I might add. How about Jimmy Vaccaro?
Jimmy, he's an old school bookmaker, and he's from back when the Mirage first opened, and he's down at South Point now, and he's not afraid to take a bet, and he'll if you come down to the book and you want to bet, he'll let you make a bet, and he'll they take their bets, they move their lines, and he's just another old timer that was one of the one of the most notable bookmakers in Vegas back in, well, really when in the 90s, I would say, for the most part, was when I think most of his popularity would be my recollection, because he was kind of along the lines when I was there too. So, but he's still around, and
I love that. I love that. What do you see yourself doing in 5 years?
Well, hopefully I haven't been outed from Spaces by then.
That was a good one, buddy. That was good.
I mean, I hope I can come in here 5 years from now and nobody will bring up the Nomad situation. But seriously, 5 years from now, I mean, I hope I'm doing the same thing I'm doing. One of the things, and I got to really have to thank Spanky, because I was, after the whole thing with the case and everything like that, and then I got back into it, and I got everybody paid back off, and then I really wasn't, my business had really slowed down. I was really only working with one guy, and it wasn't very labor intensive, and it was just kind of like almost I was in retirement, and I really didn't. So I had like a year where I wasn't really doing much, and then COVID came, and then COVID was really a shock to my system, because I always used to tell people, they'd say, well, who'd you vote for, or what political party do you like? And I was like, who cares? There's always going to be games to bet, and there's always going to be, so it doesn't matter who's the president, who's the vice president, who's running for election, who's promising what. I'm always going to be able to sit there and watch games and bet sports. And then all of a sudden COVID comes and there's nothing to bet on. And so that was kind of like a shock to the system to actually have nothing.
Right.
The biggest, the only action I was able to find during that entire time was I used to lay 6-5 for $5. I would put up 6-5 against my mother as to whether or not she could get Final Jeopardy right each night.
And what was her record?
I beat her a little. Like, she used to always tell me when she got Final Jeopardy, and I was like, well, what about, like, you never heard about the times that she missed it? And I was like, look, you don't get Final Jeopardy that often. I thought so. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll bet you I'll put up 6 and you put up 5. So we did that. We kept track. The figure ended up only being a couple of dollars. And then the season, and then the Jeopardy, by the time I finally convinced her to do it, then the Jeopardy season ended and it was reruns or whatever. So we couldn't even do that anymore.
I love it. Brian, do you have anything, bud?
I just have one last service announcement that has nothing to do with nomadic or any of that. However, what I want to say is if you are taking bets or make whatever staking or whatever, and you're posting online that PayPal me or whatever, know that gambling is against PayPal's terms, and it's not surprising to see accounts shut down for that. I'm not saying that happened or didn't happen in this case, but I've seen many, many times over the years tweets followed by people going to the main event to buy in or whatever, and not being able to buy in because their account's frozen. So if you're going to use your PayPal, don't talk about it online. That's
And
my
let's not
PSA.
send people in spaces money, people. Do not send people in spaces money. You
Yes.
do not know them. But another house cleaning note, don't forget that our sponsor, Elevator Results, can help you with your fitness goals. Donna, do you have any other comments or questions? She may have fallen asleep. You know, it's wee hours of the morning there. So we're going to let her off the hook. I'm going to
There
go
you go.
around the horn one more time. We love questions. We don't want any personal attacks. Avi, you have any questions or comments?
I'm sure Avi's got something about fantasy football he's dying to ask.
Go ahead, Avi.
No, sorry. I was in the DMs. I don't even have a funny quip. Sorry.
Dang it, Avi. Jason, any comments or questions?
No, not really. I don't have any. I just don't want him. I don't want you to think that I was coming off rude or anything. I was just honestly curious about some of my questions. I have
Look,
nothing
Jason,
but respect for you, my guy.
I want you to ask 1,000 questions. Honestly, I do. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
I just felt like we were getting a little heated up and I needed to ring it back in. So
Yeah. Yeah. No,
if you have another
absolutely.
question or comment, you go right ahead, bud.
What was your sport that you bet on the most? Like, what was your was it NFL, college sports,
The
basketball,
the best the
and why?
best
And
sport
why?
the best sport for betting is college basketball because there's so many games and so many teams, and the bookmakers just can't keep up with all the information. Whereas they have to put a line on every game, and I don't have to make a line on every game. I just have to come up with the games that are out of line or where I think their number is off. So that's the best opportunity of the big market sports that you can bet on. College basketball is the best.
Yeah, I
That's
have heard that.
Avi's
I've heard
favorite.
that.
That's Avi's favorite subject. I'm just going to welcome Alan Kessler to our speaking panel.
Oh my God, Alan Kessler, where have you been?
We miss you, Alan. How are you?
I'm at Culver's with Crazy Howard. We're driving to Michigan.
I love it.
What tournament in Michigan, Alan?
Firekeeper, it's called.
Oh, you're going to Firekeepers?
We called an audible. I was supposed to play Horseshoe Hammond tomorrow, but I'm going to try with Firekeeper.
I'm like an hour from there. I went there to see Kenneth James might be going there too. I just talked to him the other day. He might flip in there.
On the HBT was so bad. Oh my God!
Really?
He missed so many things when he's talking about and he watches the hands in advance and he knows what's going to happen and he still botched it. Horrible.
Who?
Kenneth James. Oh my God.
Well, we do a space every Monday night. Kenna hosts it and I co-host it. Come on in and let him know what he did wrong. He's always
horrible.
happy to hear the criticism.
We used to watch it and laugh at it.
Oh,
Kenna, well, Alan, I'm going to send you an invite when with 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific Monday night.
I have one of the best sports bettors in history at my team.
Hello.
Oh, you're cutting out. You're cutting out a little bit, bud.
Can you hear Howard? Talk into the phone, Howard.
Hey, Howard.
Hello.
What did Alan try to tell us? We didn't hear him.
Huh?
Howard, they're saying that college basketball is the best sport to bet on. Is that true?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Talk to them.
Yeah, I like college basketball.
What?
I don't know.
Supposed to be. He said
Howard,
it's
what are you
a.
going to be playing? What are you going to be playing at Firekeepers, Howard?
Playing the main event.
Are you? That's awesome.
What day? What day is the main event?
Tomorrow.
Today,
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Oh, today's only Friday, so day one today and
No,
tomorrow.
day one was Thursday.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Okay, cool. Cool. Day Tuesday, Tuesday, Sunday. So, Alan, did you put another staking thing up? Do I need to go look at that?
Ellen left.
Oh,
She went to the washroom.
oh, you gotta love spaces in real time, folks. You gotta love spaces in real time. Howard,
Where are you?
what did you play in Hammond? Anything?
Yeah, I played.
What events did you
I
play?
played a bunch of events.
Oh, am I the only one that's thinking this comical?
Well,
Go ahead,
Alan,
Brian.
I got myself the McDonald's app, buddy. I've been scoring some deals thanks to you.
He's in the restroom right now. We're talking to Howard.
Oh no! Oh no!
I'm sorry, but I'm finding this totally comical.
this is. By the way, it's Alan Kessler's antics on Spaces is the reason I ended up in Spaces in the first place.
I love this so much, you guys. It's so quirky. I just love it.
My favorite was Alan trying to spend his last
Yes.
comps for the day.
Yes.
In the
Before
last
midnight.
10 minutes before midnight, he's
Before
buying
midnight.
like diet sodas, and
That was
I
great.
love it.
that was
Didn't
the
I
he?
used
highlight of
to.
my summer.
Didn't he
I
say
used
Howard
to
was
go
the
to.
sports betting person though? Didn't he say Howard was a sports betting legend? Maybe Fats has a question for Howard.
What?
I know. I didn't have a question for Howard.
I didn't think so.
Howard, where are you going after Firekeepers?
Going home.
Where's home at?
Chicago.
Oh, my favorite city. I grew up there. What's
You
your
grew
favorite
up?
pizza? What's your favorite pizza?
Favorite what? Pizza.
Pizza.
Well, either father and son or Lou Malnati.
Oh, Malnati. Okay. Well, there's a place not too far from Hammond Horseshoe. It's called State Line Pizza. I highly recommend it. It's a little hole in the wall.
Sherry, don't pretend. You're out there ordering the pineapple and Canadian
Oh,
bacon
hell no.
pizza.
Don't make me boot you from this space, brother. Go ahead. Go ahead, Barry Levy.
Yeah, not to derail the room or derail the conversation. Thank you.
Hey, here's Alan.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Wait, I'm good.
What do you got, Barry?
Hold on. Go ahead, Barry. I muted him.
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Yeah, always fun listening to your stories, not to derail the room or derail the conversation. Back in 1990, when I first got into poker, it was right after the crack epidemic, and you couldn't tell people that you were into poker because they look at you like you're a fucking crack addict. So I used to have to tell people I was a supervisor at a senior citizens recreational center, and with this last fucking call, it fits right into this fucking topic.
I think we've got some extra candidates for that spaces that you're gonna.
Barry, you know what I thought you were going to say? I thought you were going to say you used to tell them you're a crack addict, and then they'd look at you like you were a poker player.
Yeah, exactly. Back then, it was the same thing. So I had to come up with some kind of fucking shtick to fucking pass as a human being.
Oh God. Oh my goodness. I should have had a drink before I started this space tonight with y'all because it's been fun. Alan, you back with us? You still peeing, bud? Hello, Alan. That's hilarious. Okay, I'm sorry. Where were we? Oh, I know where we were. It was somebody. Oh, I guess he left. I was going to give them their last turn to ask a question, but I guess they had to go. Sorry about that. We got derailed for sure.
No, I'm here.
Are you there, Alan? Okay, cool. So you decided to drive over to Firekeepers from Hammond, Indiana, over to Michigan. So you're going to play the main event tomorrow, and then what? Tomorrow and Sunday. Turn your speaker on, microphone on.
I got to tell you, Alan does his best space work when he's at a McDonald's drive-through.
Yeah.
This is true.
I think we lost his connection. What a shame, because that was really comedic for me. I'm sorry, I must be tired because it's just tickling my funny bone. It really was.
You know,
Like, who was Howard? Does anybody fucking know who Howard was?
No.
But
I got to tell you,
funny.
most sports betting people are not playing poker on a Saturday afternoon with college football.
I'm dying here. I'm like, who's Howard? Here's Howard. Okay, who's Howard?
And what did he do to Alan, man? That's what I want to know.
Well, you must have missed it because he said, I was asking Alan a question and he said, oh, he went to go pee. So he handed the phone to Howard to talk to us while he went to the restroom.
You know, Sherry, today's Free Fridays on the McDonald's app, so I'm sure that had something to do with it.
Maybe they're going through the drive-through right now and they just couldn't get reception in between the buildings or something.
Yeah, that's probably the case.
Oh my God. Did you have any more questions for Fats?
I don't. I'm going to have to wrap it up myself pretty quick here.
Okay, I'm going to let Barry go. And then if anybody else wants to come up, you're more than welcome to, because we're going to wrap it up, folks. So go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, a quick scroll through Alan Kessler's timeline. That's Howard Hankin, legendary AP slots player. So I guess he fits right into this fucking whole conversation with Nomad and fucking scammers and fucking swindlers and everything
Hot
else.
slots. Pirate Pirate 212, not a scam. It's real Cash App. Send him $1, folks.
Hey, Alan Kessler's an AP slot player too.
Right on.
My point exactly.
Oh, I love you guys so much. You've just made my day. For sure. I see. I really appreciate everybody coming in our space tonight, and I hope you understand why we didn't dive deeper into the topic that's already been hashed over for many hours in spaces. It's just time for a break, and we invited Fats on for an interview, and that's what our priority was, out of respect for him and his time. So I hope everybody understands that.
And we're going to save all the hatchets for Snoop Dogg and Coco and everybody else, right?
Whatever you said, I'm behind you. And while the hatchets are hitting you, I'll be ducking behind you. And Real Fats, we appreciate you. And I know you're working behind the scenes to make sure things get done right. And I appreciate that fact. And I want to remind everybody that we all will get more bees with honey, right? So, and we want to get the bees, and we want to get the bee. So we got to put that honey out there, and it'll turn out okay. You know what? And we're all going to be better for it and from it. And I appreciate everybody: Brian, Real Fats, Donna, Barry, Jason, Brad, everybody. Oh, McDonald. Thank you for joining us, Andy
Larry
and Omar.
And Jackie and
yeah, and
Mike down there.
Jason and Dan came up with that, and
even
Bancroft.
Omar.
Omar, of course,
Omar, my buddy
Andy,
Omar.
Whiskeys, 8 Whiskeys, Ryan Robb, Kaka. Glad you finally changed that damn profile picture, Kaka. Hayden, all of you guys. Appreciate you, and we'll see you next week when we're going to be interviewing Johnny Vibes. So thank y'all. Good
Thank
night.
you. Thank you, guys.
Go.
Good night, Sherry.
Have a good week, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.